Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me once again. Now, our next guest is Kate Ray. She is part of, she'll let her tell you herself, actually. She's a paranormal investigator, and she's a very knowledgeable woman. So I will bring her on, and actually she can tell you all about herself. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much, guys, for inviting me on this. It's so exciting. And to be up there with some really big hitting names is it's blown my mind who you've got on here. And I've just been saying to you in the backstage bit that you guys are doing an awesome job. I don't know how you're kind of holding it together. I'd be a mess by now. I'd have been a mess by yesterday afternoon with all this going off. So well done to you all.
Thank you. Like I said, and originally it wasn't supposed to be going on for this long. Originally, it was going to be 2 days, just during the day, like it was in August.
Mm-hmm.
And then it changed to go longer. Then it was mentioned, let's go for 36. Yeah, why not?
36 hours. That's crazy.
Then by the time we finish the day, it will actually be 42. Because what everyone's not aware of, unless you've been watching continuously since we started yesterday morning,
mm-hmm.
we added on another 6 hours.
How are you coping? How are you still going?
It's called a very, very patient, helpful, supportive husband that keeps me in food, glasses of Coke, and lots of coffee.
Bless you.
Moral support and staying up with me all night to keep me going, basically. So he may not be on screen, and people may not see him on screen, but he is here behind the scenes, and he actually has been awake as long as what I have. He stayed up the entire time.
Well done. Well done to you all.
So thanks to Eddie. I haven't had really chance to say thank you to him. So thanks to Eddie for everything he has been doing. And Joe will say the same. Her partner has been helping, supporting, doing the same for her since yesterday as well. So yeah, it's all fun and get to speak to loads of amazing people and talk about so many different subjects and learn about so many different things and get knowledge from so many different people all in one place and completely for free. So what more can you ask for?
Totally. And it is so nice to have such a variation of people sort of on board and talking about different things. And I know that you want me to talk about something really specific today, which is great, which is definitely a passion of mine. So do you want me to just fill you in a little bit about who I am?
Sure. Then let's talk about you.
Yeah, we'll get back to the festival in a bit because it is awesome. It's fascinating me. So my name's Kate Ray. I am a member of the Ghostfinder Paranormal Society as an investigator. That's Barry Guy's baby. He's my boss and also my friend. So I go out with those.
Say he's a friend.
He's definitely a friend. Not just my boss. So yeah, I get to go out with the paranormal group to different locations, and we also do private cases with that. I've had a lifelong passion of anything that's strange, odd, weird, including the people I surround myself with. No offense to anybody on that one. But specifically here, I seem to have kind of developed this other side of me within the paranormal community as a go-to when it comes to the Fae and the elemental. And it's an interesting story how that bore out, really. It was always my first passion within strange things and oddities. Growing up, I believed in fairies. And it sounds really whimsical, and I'll get to the brass tacks that it's not actually a whimsical thing for me at all. But growing up, it was within the normal for me to know that there were other energies there as well as ghosts. And I don't label myself as a psychic or a clairvoyant. I think my belief is that we all have this ability, this energetic ability to be able to pick up on things that aren't within our material realm. I think as human beings, part of us is part of the other realms as well, because we are energetic beings as well as material beings. So I don't like labeling myself, but I always used to pick up on different energies, and it was all part of, with a lot of people, part of growing up. So the fairy development thing for me was something that had always intrigued me. It's that connection with nature. It's that, the things that are unseen that are more intriguing, I think, for me than the spiritual realm. So when I joined the Ghostfinder Paranormal Society, we were going around locations, and I was developing not so much my mediumship, but my psychic abilities. And I would use opportunities while looking around locations to sort of tune into different energies that were there. And one of the things that I found that I was picking up on more than anything, and it's not to say that there were more in these locations, but I was coming across these beings that weren't human and didn't fall into the classic demonic realm or angelic realm. And this sort of took me back to that previous passion of the world of the Fae. And from then, picking up on these things and talking to people about the activities that they're producing. So, for instance, a location could have what they were deeming as poltergeist activity, but I was actually picking up on these beings that were using this kind of behavior to make themselves known. And from there, I became the kind of fairy lady. I don't like that title. Please don't ever use that title, guys. I'm not the fairy lady.
I'm just going to go in now and change your name.
No, please don't. Please don't. And I'll tell you why.
I wouldn't do that to you.
The thing is, for me, the overtones of what fairy is to a lot of people is that very whimsical, sweet, sugary, Disney-esque outlook that we have. And it's quite a valid perception of what we have of what fairies are, but the realm is so utterly vast. And I seem to be contacted. I'm not drawn to. I seem to be contacted with the more mischievous to the malevolent end of the scale. So when people say fairy to me, I kind of go, this is not what I deal with. It's not the Tinkerbell, fluttery, bubbles and unicorny realm that particularly want to communicate with me. It's the kind of more sort of gnarly creatures that create havoc, and that's for whatever reason that part of the realm has gone, yeah, we'll talk to you, So please don't call me the fairy lady. It's that anarchistic kind of energy that they definitely produce. And from there, I was called up one afternoon while Barry was on set for Help My House is Haunted, and he asked me to tune into a property. And I was given no information whatsoever. He just said, we've got this property. He knows that I can do sort of kind of remote viewing where I'll walk around and I'll pick up those energies. And then he said, you've got to be on the show. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And I went on the show, and I'd actually picked up on an energy which they called an elemental, and we'll get into the elemental side of it. And from there, I just seem to have, I don't know, fit that little bit of a void in there to becoming somebody who's a go-to for things that are not spooks.
Well, I actually remember you being part of the show. And I remember that case. I thought it was quite interesting, actually. And it was great to have, it's like, obviously, knowing and being friends with Barry and Jane and Chris and everything, but actually having someone else that that's not actually part of the TV world to be on. And it was really good to see you on there, and for people to see you and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also an education for people as well, which is why I wanted to have you on today to talk about this subject, because it's not really a subject that's covered that much, does it? Everybody wants to talk about demonics and elementals and this and that and the other, but it's not a subject that really gets talked about. It's not just like kids' stories and storybooks and children's films and all that type of thing. there is a lot more to it. And obviously, I've watched you on Lee and Mark show on the Just Paranormal show. So I've seen you on there talking about it, and I was like, right, that's it. She's becoming part of the festival. I want to know more about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it'd be a great subject for us. Subject for you to cover for us today.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, that set me on a quest, actually, that show, because from then I was being bombarded with questions from, what books do I read? How do I start? Do I invite fairies into my life? And how do I do it? I was being bombarded with lots of questions that I kind of felt that I knew the answers to, but wanted some depth to. And that set me on the trail of, I've set up my own YouTube channel, which you can find Kate Hare Girl Ray on YouTube, with lots of different people talking about their experiences. That's helped me build up a real nice toolkit of what's what in the fairy world. And even when people have had opposing ideas to my own, it's been, sometimes a challenge, and that's been really good because I've been able to look at things from different perspectives from talking to those people. But for me, the education of this particular field within the paranormal, I think it's pretty paramount when you're going out and dealing with investigations as paranormal investigators. One of the things is, when you're dealing with fae, it's very, very different to dealing with the spirits of the dead, and it's very, very different to how you deal with demonics. And to have that in your arsenal of knowing what to do if you do suspect that this is a non-human entity and it doesn't fall into the realms of demonic, how do you handle them, and how do you sort of appease them, work with them, or get rid of them? And I really wanted to make that sort of a bit of a mission to sort of start educating people, giving breadth to the subject, and where people could go to for information.
So we've got some comments and things coming in. So before I lose them any further down the bottom of the screen, because I've got to go back up anyway. Okay. Oh, I've gone too far now. Bear with me. We'll do the hellos first, and then I will get onto the questions. So Catherine says hi. Liz Batten says hello. Mr. Bliss says hi all. Trudy says hello, Kate. Jen Lowe says hi all. Kim says wow. Already wow. We've only just got like a few minutes. Trudy, well done, guys. Hi, everyone. Ed has put well done, Mark Bagnall, which is Joe's other half.
Mm-hmm.
That's referring back to our previous chat we started. Carla says hi. We've already put we've already had a comment. The festival page is already put on there about the Ghostfinder Paranormal Society. Official page already on there. Kelly Kennedy says hi, Kate, which I know you know, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to tell you what Lee put. One thing you told us not to call you, obviously, so you know Lee's done it.
Oh, Lee.
Of course he has. Karen said, hey, lovely. Andrew says, hey. Graham, hi, Kate. Was good meeting you last weekend. Graham Johnson. Andrew says, hey. Carla says, glad you made it. Gary says, I knew Gary'd have to comment. I wondered how long it'd be. I'm impressed. It took him a good 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
When certain situations come around and I ask the Fae for help, they're already on it, or on their way to help with the situation and put things right already.
Mm-hmm.
Rose says, naughty pixies, do you have any stories?
Oh, I've loads. Naughty pixies particularly. This is my, I would say that pixie energy is definitely something that I relate to massively. And where do I start? Where do I start with naughty pixies? I suppose naughty pixies for me I often describe them as attention-seeking toddlers, and if you don't pay them attention, they will ramp up their energy. And I have had people come to me about these particular energies that they're dealing with in the home and around and about. And it has actually ramped up into states of where these energies will will do harm. You know, they'll pinch and they'll pull hair, and you know, the sort of classic malevolenty type stuff. But it's not. It's just they're like, "Hi, I'm here," and you're not paying me any attention. And it is a lovely energy to have pixie energy about, but it can be really annoying. It can be really annoying. One of the things that I do often talk about with people is one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, how do you work with the Fae? And my first gut instinct reaction to that is don't invite them in. So this is what happens with most people, and hands up, I've done it before as well. You want to invite the fairies into your environment. So you build a little shrine, maybe in your garden, or you have, a fairy shrine in your house, and you're asking for the fairies to come in and to sort of help you and help sort you out. To me, it's a bit like opening your front door and shouting, "Does anybody want a gin and tonic?" You don't know who you're going to get in. It's the same in the spirit world. If you're
you don't know what you're inviting in. If you just put an invite out there, it's like, come on in, whoever you
everybody,
are. Why not?
Party. Exactly. Yeah. So if you are wanting to do this, think very, very specifically about what it is that you want, how it is you want to work with that energy, for how long. Because if you start inviting these things in your house and you forget about them, or you don't work with them in an appropriate way, they will stick around and they will create havoc. You know, historically, we didn't have a word for a noisy ghost or a poltergeist many 100 years ago, and these were referred to as house brownies that would not enjoy how you were interacting with them. So they would throw things and they would break things and they would slam doors, you know. So this is what we're dealing with. This is the level of energy that we're dealing with. If in doubt, don't invite them in. You can work with them in other ways. I think one of the easiest ways to work with them is immersing yourself in nature, whether that's being in your garden, taking a walk in the woods, and just opening yourself up to the energies of nature. And I often say, this sounds so hippie, doesn't it? It's such a kind of hippie vibe to these kind of things.
I like to hug a good tree.
Yeah, good.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I know people are like, what? I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't understand what's wrong with it. It's kind of being at one. I don't do it as very often, but you know, sometimes you just need that little bit of extra grounding or feeling at one and all that sort of thing. You know, I'm not really into nature and that type of thing, but I have been known to hug a tree in the past.
I definitely recommend it. I definitely recommend it. I tell you, one of the nicest things to do, not just hugging trees because you look like a nutter if anybody comes across you, but just sitting with your back against a tree and just appreciating its branches, even if it's 10 minutes, and just looking up in its branches, and the energy that creates and puts back into your body, it becomes almost like a symbiotic two-way relationship where, you know, you're pumping your energy into that and appreciating it, and it will give it back out, definitely. And that's as much as hippie as I'm going to get right now.
Okay. Next one we've got is, I want to know more about imps. Doesn't everybody? I think it's one of those, again, something that's not really covered. Obviously, it's been covered. Like Chris has mentioned them, because you've already mentioned Hawthorn. So Chris has mentioned them on there. So most people would have only ever really heard of them if they watched that show. It's not something that is really mentioned or talked about yet again. But I only really know about them because of Chris talking about them.
Yeah,
what's he talking about?
It is a buzzword at the minute, and it is one that kind of does explain that energy level that people are dealing with. Now, historically, imps, I mean, when you do your research, the biggie that comes up is the Lincolnshire imp that's connected with the cathedral, and there is a carved imp. I can't off the top of my head remember the exact story. The word imp, for me, it's a word that I would attach to an energy as opposed to the being itself. A lot of the time you will get different energies creating impish behavior, which is that borderline malevolent behavior. So when Chris and the guys on Help My House is Haunted refer to imps, it is that borderline sort of almost devilish type behavior that they're referring to. Now, these things aren't necessarily imps, as because for me, imps don't really come into Fae as a name and as a terminology, but that's a personal thing for me. These things, they tend to be something else. I mean, there is references, and our witchy friends out there will definitely know there is references to witchcraft and imps and witches calling on imps to do their bidding. And again, it is just an energetic thing of calling these things into your life, or these things being in the kind of ether, and creating chaos. And they are, when that energy is there, they are particularly difficult to work with, or to control, or to banish. They are quite strong, and they can be very, very stubborn. They're usually there for a reason. With all Fae, when Fae are around, they are there for a reason. They don't just rock up and think we're going to waste some time here because we're bored, because believe me, they're busy little creatures.
Causing havoc everywhere, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Wouldn't you though? You know, I think if I was a pixie or an imp, I'd be just like, whoa, let's see what we can
what are we getting to today? Just cause havoc and just leave.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, imps. I've been doing quite a bit of writing around the notions of imps, and these kind of energies tend to come in troops. They're very rarely sort of lone creatures. They will tend to come in minimums of threes, and up to swarms of them. And what I have found is that they also sort of come with larger, more malevolent energies. So I've been pondering this idea backwards and forwards, and again, it's something that I'm writing about whether it's negative energies that are already in existence, so either spirits of the dead who are malevolent, or whether it's something else that's kind of a bigger, more powerful energy. So you'll get this energy, and I don't know whether that attracts the imps in, or whether the imps being there attract this. It's chicken and the egg kind of scenario. But it's definitely something that I'm trying to work through, and it's quite a difficult thing when you're looking at things like fairyology and the crossover with hauntings and with ghosts, because there's been so much separation from the two subjects that there's very few texts out there that put these two subjects together and look at them. You're more likely to find texts that will cover alien abduction and its association with the Fae than you will hauntings and the Fae. So yeah, it's something that I'm working through. When I come to any conclusion, I'll let you know.
Okay. Right. We have some more. Oh, Eddie says, I remember when I mowed our lawn, I mowed around our fairy circle as I didn't want to upset them.
I do that all the time. I do that. I've got a massive obsession with mushrooms at the minute. I'm doing a lot of foraging for mushrooms, and yeah, fairy rings. It's like, do you step in them? Do you not? I've had that question before. It's like, you know what? If you're as curious as I am, you'll step in them. See what happens.
I have been tempted, not gonna lie. And I was like, do I? Don't I? But obviously, the last time I saw you talk about this, I was like, I don't know whether I should or not. And I thought, oh, no, I'm not doing it just in case.
Yeah.
Knowing my luck. So I thought, no, I'm not doing it. It says, love this, very interesting. Andrew says, oh, this is fantastic.
Thank you.
John says, I don't think I'm Superwoman, John, not at all.
You are.
But thanks for that. But more important, this is great seeing that you're involved.
Hi, John.
Haunted Scouse. You're doing great. You've been on since yesterday. I think I don't think you've actually missed a live. I'm sure I've seen you've come up literally in every single one. So thank you for that. Actually investigating near an ancient oak tree tonight in the same area that has tales of fairies and pixies linked to it. Really interested to see what we find. Oh, any tips maybe for him?
Yeah, definitely. The Fae love gifts. They're very, very much attracted to gifts. I've got an oak tree that I go to on a regular basis, and you have to go through sort of an arch of hawthorn to get to the entrance to the oak. And I'll leave gifts at the hawthorn, and I'll also leave gifts around the tree. So nuts, berries, bits of cake, that kind of thing. They like shiny things, a bit of ribbon. When you're communicating with them as well, try and get your energetic level to that kind of playful energetic level as well. They really are attracted. So if you're feeling like I know when we're on investigation and we are ghost hunting, there's a seriousness about what we're doing, and there's that respect for the dead. It's a different energy play when you're dealing with coaxing out the fae. Have that real sort of childish, happy-go-lucky. They love laughter, and they're very much attracted to people who are on that lighter scale. So keep it light, keep it fun. If play games, be silly. They love it. One of the things that I have found, and I've read many stories of people's encounters about this, is that they love to mimic human beings. They will, if they see you trip over, they will go back and tell all the mates about how they'd seen this stupid human being take a fall, and they will recreate it. And there is many accounts of people seeing sort of fae sat around taking the mick out of human behaviour because they find it fascinating. So yeah, be silly, definitely be silly.
He also says apparently predates the Battle of Hastings, so it has experienced so much energy. Ooh,
yeah, good.
That's interesting. Andrew says, I'll put it up. I live on the Isle of Portland in Dorset, and ancient folklore speaks of a group of fairies called the Nanny Diamonds. Just wondered if you have ever heard of them.
I haven't. I'm writing a list right now of places to visit that have fairy legends. So I'm up to about 118 that I've got to blitz out next year. So definitely that will go on the list. Yeah, Nanny Diamonds I haven't come across. So what I'll say about this is I'm not a folklorist. So I would say I'm more on the side of a fairyologist, and the difference is a folklorist will look into folk tales and fairy tales and try and unpick them to what the truth is within them, and then explore outwards. With me, I have a real draw for modern day encounters, also how to work with the fae, how to contact the fae, and more importantly, how to protect ourselves from the fae. That's where I lay. So when people tell me about these, and I've put shouts out before on Facebook, so please look out for them, and please contact me if you've had any experience, or if more notably in your area, if you have a myth, a legend, or a fairy tale, because I'm super excited when I hear new ones that are coming out that I'm like, no, I've never heard of that.
Okay, that is interesting. Right, go to I have. Bear with me. I have an amazing leprechaun in my team. He brings me so many amazing positive energies to wherever he goes. Really, Gary, that leprechaun.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, I know. That leprechaun, Eric, his name is. He comes round my house and causes havoc.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with leprechaun energy. You really, really have. They are... I don't want to say this out loud, but they can be super selfish creatures and will be in whatever they're in for their own gain, and very, very rarely for that of others. If you've harnessed him and you're keeping him under wraps, Gary, then you're a better man than I am. Honestly, it's not an energy that I would call upon. But yeah, leprechauns are interesting. I interviewed Thomas Sheridan, who I have a great deal of respect for, who is an author of ancient sites around the UK, but particularly in Ireland. And I'd seen him talk very, very briefly about his understanding of the She, which is the Irish fairy. And I would, say to people, please, not because it's my YouTube, but please go and have a look at Thomas Sheridan's, because his understanding from his perspective and the Irish perspective of the Fae is very, very different to the to England's perspective, in the fact they're incredibly fearful, and the leprechaun definitely are in that mix of you have at the very minimum respect, and the very maximum, you do fear, and you kind of steer clear from these energies. But it's a fascinating watch, absolutely fascinating. He certainly knows his stuff.
So you heard it here. Go and look that up, everyone. John Tollers today, because I've just decided. What's the difference between a pixie and an imp?
Okay, so
question, John, that was I got that question. Carry on.
That was a good question. So for me, like I've said, an imp is more of an energy projected out from a fae. Other people will have different takes on this. I don't believe that there is imps as such. So a pixie for me can borderline malevolent, but it kind of doesn't mean to. It's like when a child takes a game too far, that's the energy of a pixie. So if it does do things that we deem wrong or harmful, it's kind of overstepped a mark, as opposed to that's its kind of nature and its character. When you're talking about imps, you're talking about the darker side. And when I've spoken about this before on the darker side of fae, I very much don't see this in terms of I suppose in terms of a religious context where we fear demons and devils. The fae are very much like, for me, where we view the natural world. And I've used this many times as an analogy, but a snake doesn't know that it can be seen as evil. It has venom and it can inflict harm, but it has no concept of its nature. It just is a snake. And very much within the fae realm, they are just what they are. They don't wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to be malevolent today and I'm going to be anarchistic today. It's just part of their natural being, that's how they are. So a pixie getting into that impish realm can happen, definitely, that energetic realm. But it is usually when it's just kind of, and I get the feeling that they know when they've overstepped that mark and kind of feel a little bit, ooh, shouldn't have done that. Pixies, again, are another one, because within the UK specifically, depending on what area you go to, different people call different energies pixies. Sort of Cornwall and Devon, your pixies are very, very different as you sort of sweep up and move up north. So everybody's got different takes on that. I'm not quite sure whether the names and the categories bleed and blend with each other. We are, as human beings, we're very hell-bent on categorizing things. We have to put things into boxes to be able to process them and understand them. And when you're talking about energetic beings, it's not quite that clear cut. And this is where you get that bleed over of different names for maybe the same energy or the same being.
Okay, thank you very much. Eddie says, hugging a tree is a great way to ground yourself. I don't know why I'm not putting it on the screen again. Haunted Grass says, the earth is a canvas. We're all just adding to the painting as we go along. So why should it not give back in wonderful ways if we treat it with kindness?
Absolutely agree. And I mean, in that terms, I mean, I know I said that I'm approached by the sort of the more mischievous end of the spectrum with the fae. I am very much aware of the lighter end of the fae, and it's those energies that have relationships with plants and trees and animals, and ourselves within the natural system of thing. And these beings will definitely be the more positive, the less malevolent, will be attracted to people who are kind, who are aware of the natural environment. Who I had a lady about 6 months ago contact me who was terrified because there was going to be a tree cut down in front of her house, and she was terrified that it was going to anger the sort of spirits of the tree. And that in itself, the fact that she was upset about it, would have been enough to say to these beings, you're not at risk of any harm coming. She petitioned and she got the tree saved, which was absolutely amazing. But again, in Ireland, with all the mythology around it, there are trees where roads are diverted around what are called fairy trees or fairy forts. So there is a very big belief that if you aren't respectful and you're not kind and you haven't got nature in mind when you're doing things, that bad things will happen to you. So definitely having a positivity is a fantastic way forward.
Well, Teresa, love trees, woods, barefoot grounding, sitting quietly.
Don't we all?
Eddie said, I think I was an imp in a previous life. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest.
That's interesting. It's a concept that's been new to me as well. That's just brought up. So reincarnating. So there is belief out there that we do reincarnate from other astral planes as well. So other planes of existence. So people can have connections past life to maybe alien existence or fae existence. And I just find that concept absolutely fascinating. You know, I think maybe somewhere along the line I was a pixie in a previous life.
Maybe that's why, and that's why you're on the journey that you are now.
Mm-hmm.
So how teach people, educate them, because there's such a misunderstanding about it all. Maybe that's why you're on the journey that you're on.
I think so. I think talking about that, I was sat down and wrote an article a couple of summers ago about the fae and what it was in context of the paranormal. And I literally finished that article, and a couple of days after finishing that article, the last part of the article was how to banish the fae, and I'd done a lot of research into it, and I literally got a shot across the bows from the fae realm of you don't do that, and it's a story I'm not going to tell. One day I will be public with it. But if I hadn't been surrounded by other people while it happened to me, I would never have believed, and I would never have spoken about it. But there were witnesses there that were absolutely gobsmacked, and I knew that was what it was. That although I was there to educate, I was definitely not there to give away secrets like how to get rid of them. So I've been very mindful about that.
Do you think they protect things like trees, parks, water?
Absolutely. I think that for me, and from the research that I have embarked upon, every natural element will have an energy attached to it that helps growth and also protects it. So it's things like, I think the thing that because you've said about watercourse, you know, I think one of the things is that when a place is ruined by industry or by mankind, not so much by natural causes, there is a sadness of a place. Not just how it looks, but there is a definite feeling of a sadness of a place, and in that protection we can also add to that. You know, if there is a place where you feel like, you know, there is litter about, or it's not being well kept, and it's somewhere you go, you know, just taking that time to recognize that that place needs a little bit of love. You know, you don't have to do anything physical, but just recognizing that, you know, you're sorry on behalf of mankind. There's so many times, I'll tell you this little story. I used to walk past...
I've heard you say before you've made a lot of apologies over your time.
Yes, I have.
For everybody else, not even for you.
I know. There's two willow trees that I used to walk by on a regular basis. They both had a really bad haircut by the council, so the council had chopped them back so badly, and I apologised to both of them as I was walking back and said, "It'll grow back. It'll grow back." Welcome to my mad world.
I love it. Okay, we've got Kelly says, Kate helped me with leaving an offering for a copper beech tree that we were told had to be cut down. Luckily, we saved the tree, but Kate taught me how to appease elemental energy, pixie fae energy. Mm-hmm. Rose says, fairies, pixies, and imps. Do they live in groups, or are they lone? That's a good question. Or are they loners?
It is, and it's a vast question. So you have what are called troops of fae, which they do live in communities, and they live in vast communities. They can live as we do in cities. You can have lone energies as well, that just as you would do in nature. You have animals that are very much loners. that's just popped into my, I don't know whether to say this, it's just popped into my head about how do they reproduce. That's one that I haven't gone down. You know, if they're loners, how do they have fairy babies? Anyway, fairy babies. I'm not going to go down that one. I'm not going to get. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm not going to go down that one. So yeah, some of them do live.
We'll save that for another day, shall we? You'll have to come
a
back.
Late night one. Yeah, a late night one.
We're doing an evening interview. If you all want Kate to come back to do an evening interview to give us some facts that we can't talk about on a Sunday afternoon, then please let us know.
So yeah, it's well documented within a lot of fairy stories and mythology about fairy kingdoms having kings and queens, and very similar hierarchy to human beings. Some of them will be lone energies and entities. Some of them live next to each other but don't really interact. So if you have, for instance, in your garden, if you have a particular set of fairies that look after your flowers, perhaps not that bothered about interacting with your tree fairy that's nearby. So yeah, I think there's all the aspects that you can think of in human relationships and how we interact and grow in society.
I was just thinking that's quite a humanistic type of trait. Is literally what I was just thinking when you were saying that. So I'm glad you just said that about like humans. Okay, we haven't got much time left, but John says, are fae everywhere? Do you find fae in towns?
Yes, but not as often. Again, this is from research. This isn't from me going out excuse me, and doing doing any kind of psychic walk around. You do get fae within towns and cities, and they tend to be drawn to people who are actively participating within nature. So there is accounts of people having fae in window boxes, for instance, or those who have allotments or market gardens within towns and cities, that they will come down. They're not that fond of kind of bricks and concrete. They don't relate to the energy of that, but they can relate definitely to the energy of human beings and interactions that those human beings have with nature.
Okay, thank you. Philip says, do they seem to be more active at a particular time of the season? That's a good. These questions are great, guys. Thank you.
Aren't they? Yeah, we're coming up to it. So Samhain, Halloween, this is a massive one. So two big times of the year are definitely summer solstice and Samhain. I mean, the veil will be thinning to all the astral planes come next week. We're even feeling it now. It's definitely starting already. This one's going to be a massive one. We've got a blue moon. We've got a full moon.
We've got a blue full moon as well. So we're just like, yeah.
It's going to be.
I was literally going to do that, and I thought I'm not going to do that, and then you did it anyway. Then you did it.
It's going to blow you away. If there's anybody wanting to do any kind of spiritual work out there, then I would say do it, but be very, very careful. This is going to be super, super powerful. So whatever you put out on Saturday, just be careful about what you are putting out, because it's going to be absolutely amplified. And if you want to work with the fae, just be very aware as well that this is a time of the year when they're on our turf. They're on our turf and they can come through. So they're going to be, pretty hyper, I would say. Their energy is going to be pretty hyper. But join in, have a few beers, sit around a fire, and join in with the fun of it.
Okay, whole discussion about this is amazing, Karen. You are amazing guests and presenters. Thank you, Kate. We will certainly be able to create the laughter. Two Scousers bringing the banter bus. Sounds like we are the perfect team.
Wicked stuff. That's wicked.
Carla says, I love this. Jane Rowley. Hi, Jane. Hope you're okay. I recently did a house clearance on a new build house, and the energy that was upsetting the house was fae spirits, whose trees and small woodland area had been demolished in the building of the houses. It's not just the wildlife that can be displaced with building.
Totally agree. And I think one thing I can say, if you do come across that, and we are coming across it more and more, and I think it's because our awareness is up in as well about different energies other than just those who have passed over. if you find that you have displaced fae, they can create a great deal of sadness and grief within a building, and they can actually make people poorly. And if they're displaced, it can take some time, but you can actually persuade them to go and work elsewhere. You know, you can point them in the right direction of maybe an area that needs some TLC, or you know, have that communication, open communication with them. I think just telling them to get out of a building, I'm sure you don't, but just telling them to get out of the building is not going to really cut it with these energies. They need purpose. They need a job, and they want to be part of the ebb and flow of nature.
Carla says, I'm in Cornwall and we have Cornish pixies.
Say hello to the Cornish pixies for me.
Gary's on about Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he bounces to so many friends that need upliftment.
Good.
Goes missing for months, then shoots back to mine.
That's leprechaun. That's leprechaun.
Just gonna go pop all the comments on the screen quickly. Christine, yep. Fantastic festival, Karen. John says, great answer. Ari, imps and pixies. Kate, thanks. I've got to put this one on. Lee Bliss says, Kate made me hug a tree.
I did. I actually did.
That.
And he wasn't, it was a bit kind of, I don't know about that, but I did. I made him hug a tree for quite a while.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I just something I couldn't see Lee doing, but I got plenty of trees in our garden, Lee. Got a nice apple tree you can hug. That's a good question. True says, do animals sense fae around them? That is pets, dogs in particular.
Yes, definitely. I mean, there are old folk tales, particularly about horses, and people going into the stables in the morning and finding that their horse's mane had been plaited, and that was put down to pixie behaviour. So they will tease animals as well, you know, and that's why animals pick up on them. I think we know within the paranormal that it's a general consensus that most pets will pick up on things that we're not seeing and not witnessing, and they have a different sense level, different senses than human beings. So they could quite easily be tormented by different fae energies, because fae see them, I suppose, as kind of big lolloping pets themselves, you know. I think with wilder animals, there is a different energy with wilder animals, but because domestic animals are attached to us and have quite human relationships with us, that the fae find that quite fascinating. And these creatures that they would come across in the wild that wouldn't be so docile, you know, when you've got a canine in the wild, that's going to be something that the fae would probably stay away from, because of its energy levels would be quite predatorial. But you know, if you've got a sleepy dog at the end of your bed, you know, it's easy to prod and run away. They're gonna want to do that. It's a good laugh. So yeah. Just keep your pets safe from the fairies. You've heard it here.
And so do they all have different types of surroundings they prefer to live in?
Yes, definitely they do, and that's to do with the job, their energetic job that they do. So you will have troops of flower fairies. I'm rolling my eyes because we're going into the kind of cutesy thing here, and I don't do cutesy, but yeah, you have the flower fairies.
I guess that's where we were heading with the eye roll. I thought, we're going to go down that road. She doesn't like going down now. Yeah,
I mean, I've got nothing against them. But they're a sugary sweet clan, and they're lovely, and they have brilliant jobs. But you will find that different fae, even in the flower fairy realm, will stick to specific flowers. They enjoy the energy of certain flowers, and I don't know whether anybody out there, and I'm sure you have tried doing aura readings on plants, that they give off very, very different auras. I mean, I was watching a beautiful little snippet of a program yesterday day before, about a guy who'd hooked up one of his house plants to an electronic synthesizer that took the electronical impulses from the plant and then turned it into music. So these are living things, you know, that have auras and energies themselves. And yeah, the fae are definitely attracted and will stick with an energy level that matches their own, and that can become that two-way relationship where they get something back and they put into their surroundings.
So Kelly says, I love earth elemental energy, love listening to Kate talk. Jane Rowley says, I didn't tell them to just get out of the house. They were relocated to nearby woods.
Perfect. And I kind of knew straight away as it came out my mouth that you wouldn't have told them to get out of the house. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Christy says, have you come across any cases where people had been labelled as having mental health issues when it was actually fae?
Oh, that is a good question. Hi, Chris. I'm so glad you've asked that question. I think it's historic that people have been labelled mad. When you look at accounts all the way through history, written, actual documented accounts of people encountering these things. And this is something that I say all the time, you know, you say that you've seen a ghost and people kind of raise an eyebrow. You say it's an alien and they're interested in what you're talking about. If you say that you've seen a fae or a fairy or an elemental, and literally people will tell you you're nuts straight off the bat without even listening to your story. But there are historically very many stories about people being labelled as having mental health issues. One of the stories that I'll briefly go into this, and it's an age-old story that reoccurs in lots of fairy tales, is husband goes out to pub, turns up 3 days later, says he's been out with a fae. I'm always a bit skeptical whether the fae took him away or whether it was just a 3-day bender, but that's for up to you to decide. Yeah.
As we're starting to get to the end, Mr. Guy's decided to join the party. Late as always, no surprise there. So I'll ask, okay, well, I'll be kind because he's asked 2 questions. I'll ask one of them, and then unfortunately we're going to have to call it a day because I have to go to my next guest. So I'll ask his one question, as he's put lots of comments. We'll be kind. Okay. Are all fae considered elemental energies?
No, I think the general consensus is, and this is one of the questions that I was searching for an answer for when I set up the YouTube channel, and the general consensus is that elementals are specific beings that are called into existence to work with us. So religious, they have a religious connotation. I know that in Kabbalistic practice they are called upon. Witchcraft is definitely Wiccan. And pagan practices will call upon the elementals, and they are almost like they are birthed for purpose. There are the crossovers where you will get fae that are from elements, so you'll get sylphs, you know, and for the air, but they're also elementals as well. There's lots and lots of crazy crossovers, and you, like I've said, that fae will stay to one area, so you'll get earth fae that are not necessarily elementals. You can get elementals that have been called forward and then are kind of stuck and can't sort of go back to their original form because they haven't been dealt with appropriately. But it is a fascinating subject, the difference between fae and elementals. It's absolutely fascinating. Again, covered on my YouTube channel, which I'm shamelessly plugging.
Yeah, no, which is absolutely fine, which is what I was just about to say. So unfortunately, we are coming to the end, everyone. If you have any more questions for Kate, she has got a Facebook page. She has got a YouTube channel. Check out our YouTube channel. And because some of your questions you might be asking, she might have answered them on one of her shows. Have you released your one today? Because you normally release them on a Sunday, don't you?
I've had a couple of weeks off, to be fair. I don't know what's happened. It's just been one of those hit and miss. I've got 2 interviews coming up next week, one of which will go out on next Sunday. Yeah, it's usually Sunday afternoon that I put them out, but it's just been a lull. So if there's anybody out there who's got any suggestions of people that I could talk to and explore this, I have spoken to people who you possibly wouldn't believe would want to talk about fairies. I interviewed Mark Leckie, who is Turner art prize winner, and I found a little article about him and how his artwork was very much influenced by an encounter that he had with a pixie, and I was like, I've got to get this guy on, you know, because you just wouldn't believe that somebody who'd won a major art award would be sort of talking about it. So yeah, if there's anybody out there that people can suggest, I'm always looking for the weird and wonderful that is definitely out there.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate it. Thank you to everybody else in the comments, even you, Mr. Guy, even though you were late.
Thank you.
I'm never gonna let him. I'm never gonna let him live that down now. You know that, don't you? So
Better
thank
late
you
than
very
never.
much. Yeah, well, there is that. We'll let him off. So thank you very much for joining me. There is your YouTube link is in the comments, so you can find her there, and we will put the Facebook link on as well for you for your page. So thank you for everybody for watching. Thank you to Kate for joining me. Good luck tonight, Haunted Scouse, and let us know how you get on. I'll be interested to know. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I will see you all in about less than 10 minutes on yet again with my next guest. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks,
Bye,
Karen.
everybody.